Doraemon is one of the most beloved characters in the world of anime, blue robot cat from the 22nd century whose gadgets can solve nearly any problem. He's famous for his secret gadgets, his time-traveling escapades, his friendship with Nobita, Danless gloriously for one very unusual quirk: he's terrified of mice. Now on the surface that doesn't sound especially surprising. After all, Doraemon is modeled after a cat, and cats are supposed to chase mice, right? For Doraemon, the opposite is true. Show him a mouse, even a cartoon drawing of one, and he will completely panic. He'll leap to the ceiling, dash for cover, or dissolve into a blubbering mess all, much to Nobita's confusion and amusement. So, how did this iconic phobia come to define him? To answer that question, we need to travel back to the beginning, back before the episodes, before the movies, even before the first time Doraemon was sent to help Nobita. To tiny mice, perhaps looking for some late-night snack, or simply mistaking his ear attachments. For Doraemon's signature ears were gone, chewed off by the relentless rodents. The trauma was immediate and total. It wasn't just the physical damage, the shock cut much deeper. His pride, his sense of identity, all of it seemed stripped away in an instant. He burst into tears, inconsolable. Doraemon refused all attempts to attach new ears, feeling, perhaps, that any replacement would never be quite the same. He would sometimes gaze at himself in the mirror, cat-shaped but oddly smooth on top, and sigh. All his futuristic inventions can erase the pain of a simple childhood. Mishap of fact is true for us as it is for a robot cat from the 22nd century. Other robot cats might laugh at his reactions, thinking his phobia silly, but for Doraemon, the fear was all too real. For Doraemon, it all goes back to the day two tiny mice took a nibble out of his world. It's said that in this moment of despair he cried so long and so hard that it caused another accident. The chemicals in his body leaked out through his tears, permanently turning his once yellow exterior into the blue color we know today. While Cheesehead gnawed through the plastic covering, we have to go all the way to Doraemon's earliest days in the robot factory. He was freshly built, gleaming new, and, most importantly, he had a pair of small, round, distinctly cat-like, ears-adorable little accessories that completed the look. In robot terms, he was just another mass-produced cat-type servant bot, quietly waiting for a purpose. From that day forward, even the slightest whiff of a mouse sent Doraemon into a complete panic. It wasn't a question of bravery or logic. The trauma lived on, etched into his very circuits. No matter how many gadgets he possessed, no matter what upgrades he endured, the memory of those mice remained his greatest nightmare. At the time, Doraemon was not quite the Doraemon we know today. You might even say he was a little vain about them. The very creatures he was supposed to chase had turned the tables. To this day, his terror of mice persists, saronic maybe, but remarkably human. He'd keep them well polished, constantly adjusting them in front of any reflective surface. Now, if you picture industrial-age mice, you might imagine resourceful little creatures making do with whatever scraps they could find. But robot factory mice had more eclectic tastes. In a factory full of identical cats, this was his way of feeling special. In these early days, Doraemon's greatest pride and joy were, in fact, his ears. Everything changed with a single, fateful accident. One snoozy afternoon, Doraemon dozed off on the conveyor belt, completely unaware of the mischievous mice scurrying nearby.
Oh.
Before Doraemon knew what was happening, he jolted awake to a strange sensation, a tugging on his head, right where his beloved ears were. By the time factory staff rushed over, it was over. And so, in the span of just a few minutes, Doraemon lost both his iconic ears and his original color victims of a tiny pair of teeth. While his color became a quirky part of his look, his missing ears had more lasting consequences, psychological ones. Of course, the robot repair shop could replace missing parts, but emotional scars linger. And so, throughout every adventure, every time he was called on to rescue his friends from some comical disaster, Doraemon remained vigilant, but always wary of mice. It's this combination of machine logic and emotional vulnerability that makes Doraemon so endearing. So the next time you see him leap sky-high at the hint of a squeak, remember, every hero, yes, even Doraemon, has an origin story for the things that scare them most.